Hello, everybody. It's Marci from wavesofcommunication.com. Every action you take to help the late talkers in your life is important. That the fastest results come when you enjoy the process of language facilitation. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another video from the Waves of Communication channel. My name is Marci Melzer. I'm an intuitive, a speech-language pathologist, and a language facilitation coach and consultant. And my platform, wavesofcommunication.com, equips and empowers parents, caregivers, grandmas, grandpas, anyone out there who has late talkers in your life. And I equip you to connect with the late talker and facilitate the spoken language that you are looking for and they want to use. And all of my resources are available at wavesofcommunication.com. That's always where you can find out all about everything that I do. And one of the things that I do is I produced a workbook. And the reason that I produced this workbook is because I know there's nothing like this out there. I know there's nothing available that helps parents find speech in the way that I have coached parents to do. And I know it because I looked for it to potentially give to clients when I was a speech therapist, and it didn't exist. And so I ended up just coaching and coaching and coaching a whole bunch of people. And then after I coached more than 100 people, I put the process together and I threw out the things that kind of consistently weren't working for people, and I kept the things that consistently were working for people. And there is a process that you have to go through to sort of get in the mode of being a language facilitator, to get your full training, to feel like you can say, yes, I am my child's language facilitator and my child's primary language facilitator. You can say, I am the person that this child is relying on to equip and empower them to learn spoken language, because that's what this process is. There is nothing that you as the facilitator are doing to make this happen except equip and empower that child to use their brain processing, to use their listening, to use their focus, to use their brilliance, to use their inspiration from wherever they get their inspiration from, and evolve as a human being who uses speech to communicate. That's what we're here to develop, and this is what I'm here to share with you today. So what we're going to be doing today on this video is working with the workbook. I'm going to take you through the process that you can use if this is the first time you're using the workbook, or if you've had it for a while and maybe it's still sitting in the drawer, or if you've had it, you tried it, and then something happened in your life. Maybe you moved. Maybe you were doing just fine over the winter while everything was locked down, and now that you're out and about in the world, you're finding that you don't have the time set aside to get the language facilitation work done. Because of course, when you decide to be your child's primary language facilitator and you take on this journey, then it's a responsibility that you will have to plan your work. Now, I titled this video Ride the Waves of Communication because, as you can see by this little graphic here, the process and the progress is a very inconsistent thing, because language is evolutionary and you grow new language based on the language you learned before. Once you learn what a thing looks like, then you learn what it's labeled, then you learn how to use that label to request it, then you learn how to use that label to discuss it or compare it or share it or ask questions about it, or all those things. That's how language evolves, using, different people call it different things. I kind of use a spiral. So, you start with an idea, and what it is sort of fractals of spirals, because language develops around an idea. We're not interested in learning language about things that we're not interested in for some other reason. We might listen a little, but we won't really integrate that unless we have some internal motivation to stick with and connect. So when you look in the workbook, one of the things that I'm just going to share with you is this page here it's out of the 1-year journey, but one of the things that I just always want to remind people about this, and as we talk about your responsibility, and it's not going to be analyzing your kid and seeing where their kid is and all of this stuff. Your first responsibility when you decide to do this, as you buy this book, is to decide to keep the process fun for everyone. Because as soon as it starts to become unfun, boring, hard, challenging, inconsistent and confusing, then the progress stops. So if you're here to make sure that progress continues, this is always where you return. And these are the necessary things, the only necessary things to make sure that progress continues, okay? Even if you feel like, oh no, I forgot, I wasn't even doing language facilitation. How do I get back on track? This is always where you come back to first. If it isn't fun, it isn't fun. That's why my first book is called If It Isn't Fun, It Isn't Fun, because that's the make or breaker. It is. As soon as it becomes challenging, the kids are out. And your job as the facilitator, your number one job, is to get them to show up, to work, to learn, to listen, to grow that stuff in their brain, because neuroplasticity definitely happens and is available to every child, but only those who are motivated to change. You cannot program a child passively. I can't tell you how many times I'm going to say that. But anyway, so you see this perspective from you see this process from their perspective. So what the first thing, that the most important thing you need to do is you're going to be getting information from them constantly. Is it working? Is it working? Is it working? If you want to know if your language facilitation working, this lay talker will tell you. Okay, through your connection with them. You're going to know if you're seeing progress as long as you're connected. As long as you're separated in your own head, judging them without them connected, you're always going to second guess yourself. You're always going to never know which way you're going. So the connection in the language facilitation zone is where you get the information you need to do these little graphic things. Both show them, hey, here's some new exciting things to do, and draw the boundaries around things where their inspiration wants to take them running out in the woods, or, going out, exploring things that they aren't prepared for, right? That's why kids need boundaries, because they are trial and error learners. They will, if they have no fear about a thing, they'll do things that they don't know are dangerous. And that's why they need boundaries. Okay. That's the whole reason they created them. I know that a lot of it's to keep people out, but reality, it's to show boundaries so that people can be successful. Because again, as soon as things become unsuccessful, you quit and you don't see progress. Because you have to take a break from forward movement progress to solve whatever problem you're experiencing, whatever feeling of loss, whatever feeling of trigger, whatever this, like I said, there's all those mindset things that take you away. When somebody says something about your child, that has nothing to do with your connection with your child. When someone tries to diagnose you or tell you that this is what you need, that has nothing to do with your connection with your child. In this workbook, in this process, that's all that's important. Nothing anyone else says about your child is important for this process, because it's not necessary. It's not necessary at all. All the information you need, I'm going to tell you one more time, is going to come from this kid. Okay? So then when you get that information, you need to habitually provide what they need to do it. Okay? So we have to come back to fun. Always fun first. And then where you go is you start with your analysis. And I suggest, so I have in here some forms in the workbook. You're going to have all these documents in the journal that you'll be using. And the top one is these profile sheets, where you're going to be, when you're in your connection, you're going to see who's connecting here. Who are these people, you and this child? What are the things that make you who you are? Because this is why we communicate. We communicate about who we are, what we feel, what we need, what we like, what we don't like. That's how you have to know the important topics to discuss. Then you really get to know this child. And through your connection, I give you the tools here. So we're going to start with the profile sheets. And the profile sheets start with the language facilitator profile. So you're not going to profile the late talker first, even. You're going to profile yourself. The language facilitator profile. You're going to profile your own self to see your readiness to take on the job to be this language facilitator, and what do you have available to equip you to do the job. And then you look at these things. What do you really want? It's where you establish your goals. What do I really want from this child? What am I really, where you want to go? Of course, everybody's like, I want my child to be, talking in sentences or whatever. Okay. That's your long-term goal. But what do you need right now? What right now would make your life as a parent, caregiver, grandma, what would make the connection stronger? What would make your life easier? All of that stuff. That's where this is, because that's where you're coming to this process from your angle is, look, we're solving problems. I've got problems. My kid's not talking. My kid's having tantrums. My kid's being labeled by other people. I have these concerns. You got to understand that where you're coming from. This helps you put your mindset together. Understand where you're coming from. Okay. We're going to analyze it all later, but you got to see what you're working with here in your own self first. Don't skip this, guys. The whole reason all these parts are in here, but a lot of people don't want to do this. You want to jump in and say, what's wrong with my kid? Because that's the typical model. They got to find something wrong to qualify you to give you help. But this is not what we're looking for. We're looking for how to connect and understand and get information from this kid and use that information to solve these problems that you're experiencing right now. The ones that you're not telling other people about, the ones that you're feeling in your own heart and mind, the things you want, the things you desire, the things you need every day. Okay? This is where your self-care starts, because remember, you can't show up to be the primary person to help your child change their whole spoken language habits without your own self together. Okay? So this is where you understand where you are now. Now, you might see that you're feeling not together. You got to be honest with yourself about this. It's the information and data is here for you. You don't have to share this with anybody, but you do have to dig in and look at it. And then you have to look at your late talker and where are they coming from. So your late talker, your language facilitator profile is your perspective. And this is how you get to know their perspective. This child, what is driving them every day? We're all driven by different things, our needs, our desires, our comforts, our fears, and our favorites. So this is what the late talkers like, finding their favorites. This is what the behavior analysts do when they look for reinforcers. They test the child to see what makes them happy, what makes them sad. Because they know if they give them more things that make them happy in an exchange-based situation like most behavior therapies are, then they can use that not as a tool to help a child, but as a bribe to get them to work, okay? And that's when the kids get more focused on the bribe than they do the work. We're going to use that information for something different, but you still need to understand it, okay? So you'll see a lot of things in this workbook that look similar. Because remember, I was a speech therapist for 30 years. So I am bringing those things to this process, and I've made them parent-friendly, caregiver-friendly, so that you're able to do this, right? I had to go to graduate school to learn my facilitator profile and how I was going to help individual people. You only have to learn how to help this one late talker. So you need to get their information and you need to get your information. And that's the first thing you do. All right, let's go back to the documents. And in the documents, the second thing you have is this analysis and plan form. That page basically helps you transfer that information. onto it so that you can see what's going on. And then when you transfer it on is when you're using the levels. So yeah, when you have the information, I'm just going to show you on the daily record that from the profiles, you can start to make your gauges. See how there's daily levels in these charts? That's when I'm talking about the levels in the workbook right here, where we're talking about levels of connection. Sorry, this is kind of must. Levels of expression, levels of understanding, right? You can use these levels and gauge where your late talker is when you have the information from the profiles. So that's what the workbook guides you to do. Is once you finish those profiles and you analyze yourself and you analyze the late talker, then you can start to use those level charts and analyze things. And that's what you do. You analyze all 4 areas. Where is their connection? How do I feel about it? Write it down in your analysis form. Where is my, you're always going to want to know the understanding and expression ones because that's what you are using other things. Now, in these level charts for comprehension and expression, let's just look at the expression one here. You're not going to see anything for numbers of words that a child is saying, right? You're not going to see things in here about the volume of speech, whether they're using 1-word sentences or 2-word sentences or 3-word sentences. This is functional spoken language and expression. And remember, this process in this workbook, when you look at the title of the workbook, let me put this one away again. We're journeying to transfer, and that's why I call the other one transferring behavior into speech. We are facilitating the process that the late talker, remember, they're communicating from the time they come out of the womb. They start screaming because they're uncomfortable being outside of the womb, and they need someone to keep them warm and give them whatever they need to feel better. It's shocking. They're new. They're crying. It's their first communication. Okay. And it just starts there and gets more complicated from there. Then the cries change and they move. So as we look through these levels of expressive evolution, it starts with behavior, then a little bit more specific behavior, and then a little bit more specific behavior with maybe some words mixed in. But then above this line is where it actually starts to begin to get functional with spoken language. So a lot of people will see themselves, my child's only at level 3, because a lot of times kids get really stuck at level 3. Kids who have been in behavior-based, exchange-based interventions, those things look like PECs, they look like sign language, they look like flashcards, they look like anything that the child has been taught to communicate besides speech, to talk about what they're doing. Some sort of artificial way, I'm going to make this child say words. That stuff doesn't show up here. That stuff fades away and new language shows up here. And you may be at level 2 and 3 through that process, depending how long this late talker has been previously programmed. Because remember, we can look at this as a program because you are, in essence, helping this late talker choose to create new communication habits. I used to hit people, drag people, use sign language, use my picture board to communicate with people. And now I'm going to choose to give that up to use speech. Okay? That's the late talker's choice that you as the facilitator are charged with facilitating. You got to help them decide to do it themselves. And when they do, it evolves like this. They start to look and learn how other people are communicating. And when they get up here, they start listening and listening and listening and listening and listening. Because when they listen more, they learn more in this method. Okay? And it's not listening to the same thing over and over and over again. In fact, they need to hear things in diverse, natural, different ways. That's how you get the child to move up. If you do the same intervention, depending on where you analyze your child is, they will stay at the same level. You always have to be facilitating a level above where the late talker is. Once you get those profiles done and you have all the basic information about where you're coming from and where the late talker's coming from, thinking about your perspectives, the things you're interested in learning about, that's the information you need to shift over into doing your analysis. Now, in the workbook, I talk about using video. There's techniques to use video. I've even done videos here on YouTube and Facebook about using video for language facilitation. In the workbook, it shows you how to find that stuff. So again, you're going to analyze and you're going to get your profiles going. But once you get that information, then you're going to convert it to this form. Now you're going to be using the tools in the workbook to complete this form. You see those little boxes on there. Those are for the levels of all the different areas, and you're going to use these level charts. Let me show you some examples. So the first level that most people want to do is this spoken language expression, but that's not where you're going to start. You're actually going to start with this levels of connection with the language facilitator, because remember, like I said at the beginning of this video, always the place you start is your level of connection. And your goal is always to elevate this level of connection. Of all the charts, this is the chart you can get up here into the 6s and 7s within one day, because it's your choice to facilitate that connection and the late talker's choice to choose to connect with you. Remember, this is how you're gauging how much or how well is this late talker choosing to connect with me, right? So again, that's the first one. And then you can go through the other charts and evaluate the level of expression. Now, there is also a mindset chart in here where you are evaluating your language facilitator mindset. Also recommend to do that right up front, but you're going to have to do all of them to fill out that next form, because this is where you're analyzing where your starting point is. So for example, if you were going to go to a workout at a gym on a weight loss program, because you're developing a program, you always have to know your starting point. Now, this language facilitator mindset, this can go up and down even within a day. That connection level is the one that you have to maintain to keep going, but you also have to maintain this. Whenever you feel like you're slipping down below this line, and you can use these graphics to give you an idea of how you're feeling, right? If you feel yourself slipping, it's up to you to use the strategies in the workbook to pull this up. And that also is included in the workbook. All of these level charts are followed by strategy charts. So here is the strategy page that is some basic rudimentary ideas for things that you can do, the strategies it takes that you need to facilitate to move the child up in each one of the areas. There's one for connection, and there's another one here for listening or effort to improve speech. This is the spoken language one. So you're going to use the level charts and those basic charts. And there's also in the workbook detailed descriptions of those levels. So if that level chart isn't enough information for you, you can go read a few paragraphs about that level to help you make decisions. But again, you're not getting your information from the workbook. You're getting your information from your connection with the lay talker. They are showing you or telling you with their communication what level they are. How are they connected? How are they motivated? How are they doing? And then in that mindset, how does it make you feel when they do or don't connect with you? So now you know everything you need. You've got your analysis to see your starting plan, and you know what strategies you need to do because your child's at a level 3 and you want to get them up to level 4. So you look at level 3, you go to those strategies, you say level 3 strategies, this is what I've got to do. And those strategies strategies match the level of the child. And for you, they are facilitating what will take it up. Remember, it's never going to be at the level of the child. If the child is based on prompt-based or they're using single words, you're always going to be talking a level ahead of them. Remember, you're giving them the models. You're giving them the inspiration of what language they can use. This is where you dictate, what am I going to do? How am I going to change my talking? This is where this goes. How am I going to change my listening? How am I going to change my interaction? How am I going to facilitate more listening, coming, watching? Because that's what you're motivating this late talker to use, right? Their brain to focus and learn, their listening and their focus on your activity and paying attention and listening to your language models and trying these things, the effort to actually put in effort to do new things, to try new things. Okay. So after you get your plan together, then you're going to have to start to take action. And now you know how you're going to change your speech, but you got to figure out when you're going to do it. Like, when am I going to figure this out? Because the rule, the basic rule, is 2 to 3 hours minimum of connected language facilitation time where you're using those strategies that you had in that workbook. And that's when you move into the next form, which is this weekly itinerary form. So once you figure out how you're going to talk and what you're going to do, and you also know what your late talker loves and what you want to facilitate them learning to do better, you know, that you want them to wear your shoes when they go out. Remember, you're drawing those boundaries. Those are the things that you need to facilitate, that things that you want to teach anyway. And the late talker has their own ideas about those things that you're looking to change their mindset about. I used to grab mom and drag her. Now I say, let's go out, because mom says those are the words that work to let everybody know I want to go out, right? I heard her say it a whole bunch of times. I'm going to try to use it myself, and I'm going to do it. That's what we're trying to facilitate here. You've got to choose 4 times every single day that you are going to multitask, is all I'm going to say. You're going to get that thing done, getting dressed, brushing teeth. It has to be a skill that you already find easy. You're not going to train a new habit in these 4 things. That's the caveat of these 4 things. I know you've got things you want to train another time, but this is the time for speech. And it is time, things that you want the child to be more independent with, right? The things that you are doing a lot of already, helping the child through, and you're looking to get them going. This is where you want to do it. But if you're looking to get them to change their mind quickly, that's not what's going to happen. Remember, we're evolving the things that you already do. That's why I use these 4 times a day. And I call them, morning, afternoon, midday, evening, and then bedtime. And I always use bedtime because I think every family should spend some time at the end of the day as a blanket language facilitation activity that you do every single day. And you can do this activity whether you're home, whether you're traveling, whether you're at grandma's house. And if you are the one who's maybe watching this child overnight or whatever, bedtime is a super, super important time. And even if you are traveling or moving or something exciting has happened, that bedtime becomes even more important, because when nothing new happens at nighttime, you talk about and review. It's your chance to review the other 3 language facilitation opportunities that you had during the day. So even if it was a day that you never left the house, you had toothbrushing, and you had, we played with trains, and we had lunchtime, and we had bedtime. There you go. Or we had an afternoon tea party that we played. There's only has to be 4 different times during the day when you have to do that thing, but you also will use your your strategies. You'll talk more slowly. You'll give more time. You won't prompt. You will never prompt your child at all during those 4 times of the day. It's the one time that you can say, because a lot of people say, I'm not going to give up prompting. I can't give it up completely because I need to get my kid to do things. All right. But these 4 times a day, no. You choose a thing that you are going to coach the child and facilitate their independent improvement with. That's what these 4 things are. So you find something that's so easy the child can do. And then what I have in the workbook is what I call an opportunity creation formula, okay? And in that opportunity creation formula, I give you ideas. So here in this one is focus topics. There's 4 categories here of activities to give you ideas of things to put into those 4 things. So you have everyday jobs, personal care jobs, inside jobs, outside jobs, house cleaning jobs, care for people jobs, all of that. And then there's personal skills. And then there's planned activities that you already do every day. We've got to mow the lawn. We've got to water the plants. We've got to do whatever. Those are kind of everyday jobs. But then planned activities is every Thursday we go to music lessons. And on Monday nights we watch football or, whatever you do. That's your planned activities that you do not every day, but consistently. And you can facilitate around the preparation and the setup and the cleanup and the actual activities are just another part of this whole activity for all of these jobs, all of these categories. For toothbrushing, you shouldn't be just handing your child with a brush with paste on it. How did that paste get on the toothbrush? Why did we choose this brush? How do I know it's mine? Right? That's all language that you can facilitate in these everyday jobs. And that's how you develop your itinerary. You don't have to be like a speech therapist and say, we're going to do puzzles and we're going to do flashcards and no, these are your everyday activities that you already do. Okay. And then functional language is asking and requesting and comparing. And remember, it's not just asking, it's all these things: analyzing, applying, comparing, describing, developing, evaluating, examining. And there are a million more ways to use language, right? It's not just about saying the name of a thing to get it or get more of it or make it go away. Yes thing, no thing, right? You want a lot more language than that. This is your opportunity to facilitate it. You got 4 times a day, right? Requesting will fall in there. It'll happen anyway. You don't have to plan it. Your kids ask you already non-verbally or with whatever language they're using now 50 times a day for things they ask you. So they're already giving you opportunities 50 times a day to facilitate requesting. You use your 4 times a day to facilitate something else that's not labeling, that's not describing. They see labels and descriptions all day, every day, and everybody else who doesn't know how to work with your child, that's what they'll teach them. Let them teach them that stuff. You have the special time, and your time is limited. You've got all the other things you have to do in your life. Rely on other people to teach your child what they're going to teach anyway, and you teach what's missing. You're the expert here, right? That's why people work out at their home all the time with YouTube, but when they finally hire a coach, they tell them how to work. That's what happens with me. People work with the workbook, and most people, I would guess, are able to use these strategies to get it going, especially with a video like this, where I coach you through how to use it. But ultimately, there's nothing in this workbook that's going to get your kid talking. That's you. That's going to get your kid talking. This is just the guidance and training for you to become that facilitator. All right. So once you get your itinerary going, then you get to work, and you work every single day, 4 times a day to get that late talker going. And then every single day you have to revisit your plan to make sure you're staying on it before you go to bed. After you tuck in your late talker, you get to your workbook and you write down these levels. All 4 levels. How well was my child connected today? And you then, right then, after you have reviewed it with them in their beautiful nighttime story time, which is what I call nighttime story time. Remember how we played with the water today? That was so fun. Don't tell Daniel Tiger stories at nighttime with a late talker. They get that stuff all day long. You give them something different. The Joey story or the Sal story or the Sally story or the Jenny story or the whoever, your child's story. That's what they want to hear. And when they lay their head on the pillow and they hear about their successes, because you had easy, happy, safe, and fun things, and how much better they are at brushing their teeth or going outside or holding your hand or staying with you when you go out, all those things that you facilitated, that you remind them how great they are and how grateful you are that they're trying hard to develop these things. And then you write it down. What did they do? What did they do? What changed this week at the end of the week? What fundamentally do you have to do less and they're doing more? Or what are they doing more that you have to do less, right? How are things shifting? How is the shift happening? It's very important at the end of the week or the end of the day, every day, you see how is this shift happening day by day, better and better every day. Some days you're going to see massive shifts, because your child's going to decide to try a whole bunch and they're going to blah, 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 blah. You're going to see a fire hose of stuff coming out of them. Other days, they're going to be super quiet and listening and contemplative and using and analyzing all the things that you told them the day before when you took them to the park and you showed them the ants in the anthill and the turtles swimming in the water. And you just said, look at this, it's a turtle and it's swimming in the water. And they're like, learn, 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 learn. And they're not talking a whole lot, but they're processing everything because you're slow and careful and giving them exactly what they need. And they're picking it up and you write it down. What are they picking up or what not, right? Maybe you try something that failed. You got to write that down too. You got to write that down too, because what you're going to do is at the end of the week, you're going to see what changed this week. And then you're going to go back and you're going to do some more analysis and you're going to do another plan at the end of the week. Every week you got a new plan because things change every week, maybe every day. At the beginning, depending on how old your child, depending on where they are, depending on how many minutes a day you're in language facilitation mode and connected with the late talker. At the beginning, it depends, like if the late talker's not like, what are you doing? You're talking so weird, you're talking so slow, and they're kind of resistant to it. You have to push through and keep it easy. Dial it back if it's too much for them and present in a way that is absorbable. You know your late talker's limits. You got to stay within them. Their perspective. Remember, we're always coming back to their perspective, because if they can't pick it up, they're not gonna. If it's too heavy, they won't pick it up. But if it's perfect, if it's connected, if you teach them what they need to know, they will pick it up, everybody. So you go back to the next week. And then after you do 3 weeks time, every 3 weeks, you do a little quarterly check-in, right? Because every 3 weeks, you make a little situation and you're like, okay, so now we've checked in the first 3 weeks. What are we going to do? What was highlighting? What has to change? What has to change, right? What was really good? What worked or what didn't work? Write this down, right? If you have this page in your workbook. If not, you keep track of it, because then you're going to go back and you're going to do a new profile. Because after 3 weeks, this late talker has changed, but guess what? So have you. So you're going to go back and do more profiles for the late talker and yourself every 3 weeks. So that's how you stay, because in 3 weeks' time, you could have moved to a new place. You could have gone on vacation and come home, and your late talker learned so much in that 3-week vacation that you took to India with family that they are a new child. And you've got to have a new plan. Let's scrap this. We got a new kid here. It's a new profile. They have a new mindset. They have evolved. Now you can write it down and show them how. And you look at those profiles through your workbook. You look at those daily things through your workbook. You look at those weekly progress sheets through your workbook. Week after week after week, you'll see that evolution, and you can share it with everybody. Anybody who asks you, what are you doing? This is what we're doing. I'm using these strategies. These are the strategies that work. These are the strategies I tried and failed, because everybody's going to have some that try and fail, even speech therapists, because every child is unique and they wake up in a different mood every day. And it's your job to help keep them balanced and learning and ride through the ups and downs. Those days that everything's going great, you jump on the surfboard and ride it with that late talker. You pay attention. If they're sick, they're not feeling well, they're tired, they're whatever, you give it up and take advantage to dig into that snuggle time with them and teach them all about remedies and teach them all about feeling better. We aren't learning anything new now. We got the opportunity to learn about language around illness, language around accidents, language around bummers. We lost this, we dropped this, my ice cream fell. Oh no, what do we do now? You have the opportunity to show your late talker everything. And this is the opportunity. This is it. This workbook is what you can use to get it done. So, okay, you can get this workbook in 4 languages around the country, around the world, all over the world. Amazon worldwide. And if you can't find it on Amazon in South Asia, go to notionpress.com and look for these titles and you will find the workbook. It's available for everyone everywhere. If you can't get it in print, it's even available on Kindle. So you can find out how to do this process. Everyone in the world can become a language facilitator because of this workbook. It's making me emotional. I hope you jump on and take advantage, because parents all over the world are doing it, and I want you to be part of our community. So thank you so much for joining me again for another video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for tuning in today. With a whole range of Waves of Communication resources, from free content to customized coaching, you now have access to everything you need to elevate spoken language to infinite success. You are welcome to get your journey started with my 11-week language facilitation journey to speech workbook. This tool is helping parents worldwide create nonstop language facilitation opportunities that elevate spoken language beyond even their own expectations. You can access this workbook and all of the language facilitation resources on my website, wavesofcommunication.com.